Suraj Hinduja.
That's right.
I thought I was going to butcher it.
No, you're good.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
To the Carrie Croft Show.
Thank you.
You are now officially a return
I am.
guest. And I
I'm
only
honored.
invite very special people to return
I'm very honored.
to the Carrie. I am honored.
Of course.
It's good to lay eyes on you again.
Oh, thank you. It's good to see you too.
You look damn good. Your coif is just...
Thank you.
Your
Thank
coif
you.
is, I mean, it's a 12.
Thank
on
you.
a scale of 1
Thank
to 10.
you.
The belt.
Thank you.
You always look like a little model.
I try.
Well, it works.
It's my one hobby.
You know, your effort pays off.
Thank you.
So we were talking before we started.
Yeah.
And you were saying how busy you've been, which doesn't surprise me.
Yep.
Because you're a busy bee humming around.
Yep.
Rockbridge and
Yeah.
RTRX and
Yeah.
juggling and making all the magic happen, making
Yeah.
Columbus a better place.
Yep.
Now, when we were in my office in the first episode, we
Yes.
did talk a lot about Columbus.
Yes.
And I always think about that now when I'm at the airport. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, remember Suraj and I talking about when you could just say, I'm going to Columbus.
Right. Get rid of the comma, Ohio.
Yeah. And I feel like Columbus continues
Yes.
to shine.
Yes.
And the more I do this show, the more I see that.
Yes. I'm going to flip the script
Yeah.
for a second. How are you seeing it, or from the past year, what's making you feel that Columbus is continuing to shine?
So this has given me the opportunity to meet and see people and things, nooks and crannies
Sure.
of what's happening that I wouldn't normally see. And so
Yeah.
just one, I'll give you the most recent example. So I meet Jackie Mahan from The Awesome Company,
Okay,
and she's
yes.
just an absolute force of nature.
Yes.
Totally, like she was just great. Just wind her up and sit
Right.
her there, watch her go. Hey, Jackie, I know you listening. So when I was doing the teasers for that episode and then put the episode out, somebody reached out because we did my first giveaway. So we count how many times Jackie says pig in the
Okay.
episode, and then we would give you a $250 thing toward a custom printing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's see how this works.
Yeah.
So she said pig like 90 sometimes, which is
And
not the point.
Is pig, like, was that like she says pig a
She's
lot?
obsessed with pigs.
She's obsessed
You have to go
with
back
pigs.
and listen to it because
Okay,
she's
yeah.
hilarious.
Does she own pigs?
She owns 3 pigs.
Okay.
So anyway, this woman reached out with the answer, and she just so happened to be from this place called Freedom a la carte.
Yep.
Okay.
Who, Paula from Freedom?
I don't know if it was Paula. It was
Okay.
someone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what is this Freedom a la carte
Yeah.
you speak of, right?
Yep.
So this is one example. Then I start peeling back, and then I put it on my story. People start writing in. You have to have them on your show.
You have to have Paula on your
They
show.
support people for that survived human trafficking.
Yep.
So it's given me such a close, in-depth view of the good stuff that's going on, the creative stuff that's happening. Today, coffee with Andy. He owns Garage Beer. Had this great conversation with him around what he's doing. You know, so I am like my head's on a swivel.
Sure.
With all the greatness happening in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah. Well, I'll go to Paula for a second. I think the world of Paula and her team at Freedom a la carte. They are a catering partner of ours at RTRX every year. And I love that cafe down on, what would that be, Spring? Yeah, it's on Spring. And it's a phenomenal cafe. And their model, like, I remember when they were in the basement of a church on Broad Street when they first started their social enterprise kitchen. And to see it have grown to where it is today is a testament to Paula and her team. It's a testament to our community. It's also a testament to the work that they do in providing support for survivors and the work that they do to build confidence and to build safety for women who've gone through domestic violence.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that we are our brother's keeper and we are our sister's keeper. And if we I was having breakfast with someone today and I said to her, the strategy I've wanted to implement has not gone as fast as I want it to have gone, which is how everyone feels typically about everything. And she had to remind me that the last 4 years have just been really, really interesting for us as a society, as a community, as a country, and as a world. And so that was a nice, humble check of yes, but we're still progressing. But what I don't want us to forget, not that you're asking for advice here right now, but what I don't want us to forget, which I felt like during the early onset of the pandemic, where there was a lot of, it went from me to we, and then we went back to me pretty damn quickly. and we got back in our silos, and you can point to many things to that: geopolitics, the economy, race relations, anything like that. What I want to say is what I am reminded about when I'm with Paula and Freedom a la carte are two things. One, that like good food nourishes the soul, and they've got great food and it nourishes the soul. And number two, we are our brother's keeper and we are our sister's keeper.
Yeah.
And we've got to lean in harder on that. But I would have Paula on the show in a heartbeat.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
It's one of my, they're in my queue to reach out to go and learn more and then have them on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, so Suraj, and you are I wouldn't say, you're a big part. I mean, you do a really big part of trying to make this city and the world a better place. And RTRX is like your baby.
Yeah.
I want to hear, I saw that Reagan Reagan's my boo.
Yeah, Reagan Walsh will be there.
I mean, she's going to spread some of her, heart boss zhuzh.
Yeah.
So talk to us about what is it going to look like this year? What can we expect?
Totally.
What's going to be different? Give us all things RTRX.
Totally. So this is our 13th year, and we're excited. As we always say, it's going to be our best year yet, and that's because we pour over every single detail when it comes to the programming and the experience that folks have at RTRX. So our tagline and our belief is we believe in priming optimists for action. We believe the world is a better place if we're optimistic about it. We believe the world is a better place if people who are optimistic take action. And so how can we inspire people to do that? So the programming is going to go everywhere from Jimmy Chin, who is a world-renowned climber, mountain climber, videographer, to a guy named Damon West, who is supposed to be in jail for 80 years for dealing and using hard drugs and ended up getting out in like 7 or 8 years. And he has a message of hope and redemption in how you live your life. And I've had to do a lot of interesting things when it comes to speakers. The month before Damon comes to RTRX, I have to have a meeting, a Teams call with his parole officer to certify that he's coming up from Texas to Columbus, Ohio to speak at RTRX. So it's like one of those things like there's a first time for everything. Mm-hmm. And so we've got Jimmy, we've got Damon West, we have a gentleman named Tucker Bryant, who is a former product manager at Google, and he's a poet, and he's going to talk about innovation through the poet's keys. And then we've got a woman named Michelle Gethers, who I met Michelle maybe a month and a half ago at a conference down in Austin called Curates, run by my friends Eugene and Josh and Misty and Annie. And Michelle is a former executive at American Express and at Visa. And she was heading up product. She was heading up their diversity, equity, inclusion offices, their company affairs, their foundation, across the board, was on the executive committee of both Amex and Visa, so reporting to the chairman and CEO. And I have yet to meet someone who had me in the palm of her hands talking about her story and building inclusive leadership. And as she advocated for herself, she will tell the audience that she was statistically not supposed to be making it out of high school and was not supposed to be alive, just like born in the projects. Parents died at a very young age, and she found people who believed in her. She believed in herself, she advocated for herself, and along the way, she advocated for other individuals. And she'll talk globally about what that means to build a new way of leadership. And so those are our keynotes that we'll have at Kemba. And then we've expanded what we call our master classes, which is where we dig deep, we roll up our sleeves a little bit. So we'll have Reagan Walsh, who will talk about heart-led leadership. We've got Dr. Jeremy Hunter, who is the executive director of the Drucker Institute out in Claremont, at the Claremont School in California, talking about executive health and mindfulness. Jeremy is actually on his way back from a 5-day dark retreat where he had no access to his phone or email or technology and sat in the dark and meditated for a majority of the day. And we've got Reagan Avon, who's going to talk about the implications and applications of AI. We'll do some fun cocktail making classes that our partners at Make Ready always do. We're gonna actually try this new masterclass called Bikes and Brews, where folks are going to build bikes for kids as a team building exercise, and then we'll donate those bikes, and then we'll get some brews out there, right, for folks to enjoy as well, and a couple other things that we're cooking up. But it's gonna be really, really exciting for us.
How long do you think you would last in a dark meditation, realistically? How long do you think you would make it?
Realistically, like no more than a day.
You think you could do a day?
I think I could do a day. The only reason I would do longer is if I'm traveling out there and I paid for it. And like then at that point, I'm like, well, shit, Suraj, you have to do it if you probably paid what I would imagine is thousands of dollars to go on this retreat. But even being away from my phone gives me anxiety, and I'm trying to be better about it. One of the new things that our leadership team at Rockbridge is implementing is when we're in certain meetings, we all have to check our phones, and we have to put our phones in a box. And that was like super hard for all of us, but super hard for me because I'm just like, I have FOMO and I want to know what's going on, and I get anxious if I don't respond to text messages right away. So learning to be present and trying to be better about like if I'm now we're recording a podcast, so my phone's on do not disturb and it's sitting over there. But if we were just having coffee, I bet I would probably have my phone on me and I might scroll through it like once or twice. And I'm really lucky that I've got friends and coworkers who like will like smack me out of the hands or just be like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
it's addicting.
It's addicting.
I mean, beyond addicting.
It's totally
It's a
addicting,
problem.
and I admit to it, right? I admit to it, and
Look where my phone is.
Yeah, right?
I mean, clear. I'm trying to get video of
Yeah,
you too. But like
you've got stuff to do,
but I guess too, the problem or the issue is that some of your, a lot of this work stuff is so intertwined where it's like, yeah, this is my job. I am working, but then I'm like super close. I'm like, oh wait, this person, oh, this Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
And then you want to catalog it, and you're like, so-and-so saw that. I want to do this, and I got to follow up with them. And so I find myself just texting myself things and reminders. But we were in India at the end of 2023 and into the new year, and my family was like, oh my gosh, like, can you, like, they leave their phone. They don't, like, my aunt's alarm clock is an alarm clock. It's not her phone. She leaves her phone, like, on the credenza in the living room. Meanwhile, I've got my phone, my iPad, and my Apple Watch, and my laptop within, like, reach distance for me. And so I'm trying to be better about that and be more present. And also recognizing that just because I always have my phone to me and I'm always answering things does not mean that other people are always going to, because I'll read into like, why haven't they responded, or what are they doing, or
what's wrong with them? They don't check their phone every 10 minutes?
Yeah, they don't check their phone, or they're on Instagram, but they're not responding to my text message or my phone call. And I have to just calm my little anxious mind a little bit and take a couple deep breaths, as my therapist Stacy tells me to do. So we love Stacy. We do love Stacy.
Speaking of Stacy.
Yes.
So I was just reading on your Instagram, so you had just shared before we started airing this, that you put a very vulnerable post out on Instagram recently about mental health.
Yes.
And so I feel like we should kind of crack that open a little bit and just talk through it. So first, talk about the actual post. There's a beautiful picture of you smiling in Sedona.
Thank you. Yes.
And you wrote a post about like mental health awareness.
Yeah. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And one of my best friends, Evelyn, who we worked together in Columbus and went to Ohio State together. She's in DC now. And one of the things that we've always bonded over is just mental health and the grind of being ambitious and hard charging and the effect that has on you. And so she made a post a couple days before and was a big leap of faith for her to put that out there. And so we talked afterwards and I was like, Ev, like, well, shit, like I might as well, like, I should do the same thing, right? Like I feel like I've been sitting with some stuff and I feel like I should, like, this is a cathartic way of dealing with it. And Evelyn's one of my best friends, and that post reminded me of the struggles that Evelyn has gone through. And it recentered me a little bit on that friendship. And so it was last Friday I posted it, so it was a week ago. And I was sitting in my office, wordsmithing it, putting it in AI to see how ChatGPT would edit it, put it on a couple other things. And then I just said, like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to post it. And so the first paragraph was just around like how important mental health is. And then the second part of it was calling out a friend of mine. His name's Matt McQuaid. We used to work together. He was at One Columbus, and I was at the partnership. And he was the first person I met when I walked into the bullpen at the partnership on my first day as an intern. And Matt and we sat next to each other and we became fast friends. And I consider him and his wife and their kids like family. And so I started to detail a coffee chat that Matt and I were having in the fall of 2018. And the fall of 2018 was really tough for me because I was doing a lot at work and I was taking on a lot, and I didn't feel my best. And I found myself internally getting mad at the barista at Starbucks for taking forever to make my coffee drink, or wanting to honk at the person in front of me and then speeding past them and realizing it's like an old lady. And it's like, okay, dude, like don't honk at an old lady driving down Third, right? Like calm down. And I would never do it like outwardly because I'm a recovering perfectionist and feel like I have a reputation to protect and would never want to be like known like snapping at the barista at the downtown Starbucks, because who would I run into? Probably people would be there that I know. And so that's Stacey and I work on recovering perfectionism a lot. And Matt could sense something in my eyes, right? And he was just like, are you really okay? Like you're twitchy and something's going on. And like, I was like, no, Matt, I haven't slept more than 4 hours in the past like 30 days. Like I'm teetering right now. And I just feel really on edge. And Matt was like, he literally like grabbed my hand and was like, okay, we're not going to talk about work anymore. And he was like, I've been there before. And then he started asking questions, and he was like, here's what I need you to do. Like, I need you to make an appointment with your general practitioner. I need you to explain this to him, what's going on. I think you need to be on, anxiety medication. And I think you really need to focus on your diet and your sleep and your exercise routine. And I remember like rolling my eyes and then Matt was like, I'm serious. And so then Matt called me every day after that for like 3 weeks until I scheduled my appointment with my general practitioner. It was right around Thanksgiving, and then called me before the appointment with my GP and called me right after, and then helped me think about how I was going to tell my parents during Thanksgiving that I was going to go on this anxiety medication, and which is not a typical conversation that men have. It's not a typical conversation that South Asian men, Indian men have, especially when you're an only child and you come from I love my family. I love my immediate family. And they're going to hear this, and I would say this if they were sitting right here, but I come from a very demanding, very high achieving, high expectation immediate family and extended family on both sides. And so my cousins and we navigate that all the time. And so that was really big for me. That's when I started really taking my workout seriously. That's when I, started taking medicine and sleep and tracking my sleep seriously. And then the final part of that post, I had deleted and typed probably 5 or 6 times. And it was me sharing for the first time publicly more than before that post went up, probably 15 people in my life knew what I was about to say, was that when I was in high school, I had thought about taking my own life. And the weight of the world being in high school and having really bad acne and not being able to get a date to a homecoming dance, but then like not feeling that I was enough. And so the first 3 things are like the typical, like the stuff that we deal with in high school and adolescence. But then it got deeper and deeper and deeper in what I was going through, where I just didn't feel like I was enough. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like I would ever be able to meet expectations and standards. And it was really my expectations and standards because of my perfectionism. And I met a woman named Brenda Jordan when I was a freshman in high school, and she was the administrative secretary at our high school. And she was as tough-loving and sassy and full of life as they come. And loud, boisterous Italian woman. And so we became really fast friends. And this would have probably been the end of my junior year, beginning of my junior year. And I was sitting in her office, and we had built a really strong relationship. And she could just tell something was like going on. And so I was sitting in her office 3 days before I had mentally planned to take my own life. And I did not tell her that. Like I wasn't going to tell anyone that.
When you say you'd mentally planned, did you like sit down and?
I had told myself that 3 days from that like I was going to attempt it, right? And I was waffling as to how, but I was quite resolute on, like I had gotten to that point so low that I was like seriously contemplating, like kind of like circled on the calendar type of thing.
Why was it that day?
I don't know. I just
gave you enough runway.
It gave me enough runway.
Okay.
It gave me enough runway, and I like to live in the gray sometimes, and it gave me enough runway to backtrack or not. So Brenda could sense something, and so she just started asking questions, and then I'm leaving her office. And she stopped me, and she said, Suraj. And I said, Mrs. Jordan, because I used to call her Mrs. Jordan when I was in school. And she said, you know how loved you are, right? And I rolled my eyes. And she said, Suraj, you know how much I love you, right? And how much I adore you. And even though you drive me up the damn wall every day, and you think you can go save the world, and sometimes I got to bring your feet back down to reality, you know how much I love you and how important you are to me. And that changed everything.
What'd you do? Just that, like, did you cry? Did you just say...
I shed a couple of tears, and I rolled my eyes again and said, you're so full of shit. And she said, so are you, but I love you. And that was it. And Brenda passed away this past December. And her birthday was November 27th. It was a Monday. And I was coming back from a work trip. I was on a work trip in Austin. And we had just been playing phone tag because we used to see each other every couple of months. And I love being busy. But I hadn't seen her in a while, and I kept on canceling on her. And so her birthday was on a Monday. Texted her, we couldn't, like, calls weren't working. I was on the plane, she was driving, what have you. And then that Thursday night, I got a text that she was being rushed to the hospital. I didn't sleep. And I got a text from my friend Sarah Jean on Friday morning around 5:30 that she had passed away. And in our 17 years of friendship, I had never told her thank you. And I would always tell her how much I loved her, and in her raspy voice, she would tell me to go kick rocks and go on with my life. And I still to this day struggle with her passing and shoulda, coulda, woulda, and regrets. And I canceled on her one too many times because life gets in the way and life happens. And Stacy, my therapist, has been really helpful with, like, reminding me that, like, Brenda knew, even though I didn't say anything. But what I would tell my therapist, and what I tell Brenda all the time, and I love that the metal thing that's sitting in front of us right now says love, is and I'll get emotional just thinking about it, but what I struggled with when Brenda passed away, and still to this day I struggle with, is outside of my family, I have never felt a love like that. The love that I felt from Brenda. Because when she says I drove her up the damn wall, I drove her up the damn wall. Like, absolutely. My ideas, I was insane. I would forget things. I would say stupid things. I think I can go save the world. Like, I want to do all these things in my life and accomplish all this stuff. She just laugh and smile, tell me to slow it down. But, like, the love I experienced from her, the unconditional love of acceptance and grace. I mean, the amount of grace that woman gave me is impossible to conceptualize. because she gave me grace on the best of days, the worst of days, every single day. And so I was sitting in my therapist's office, and I was saying to her, I said, Stacey, just like the love that I felt from that woman, the grace, the compassion, the empathy that I got from her. And like, I was like, I don't know. I hope I'm loved like that someday. I really am. And I hope I can love like that. I want to love like that. And that was the greatest lesson in it. But let me tell you, like, I haven't experienced anything like that. And she just brought out the very best in me, checked the not so good in me. And so the reason why I had deleted when I made that Instagram post, the reason why I had gone back and forth on it is I didn't know if I was ready to share that with, call it the general public. Yep. Like I said, probably no more than 15 people of my closest friends knew or know that before that post. And I've slowly shared with people as conversations around mental health have grown, why I think it's important at RTRX that we talk about mental health and well-being, and I privately share that with some folks. I also think it's important to share. I'm a total nerd, and since I'm 31, so since I was like 10, my favorite show is The West Wing, that was written by Aaron Sorkin, and it's Martin Sheen and John Spencer and Bradley Whitford, and it's about the president and his senior staff. And there's one episode early on in the series where the deputy chief of staff is going through some pretty emotional times, and the chief of staff makes him see a trauma specialist. And after the session, the chief of staff is waiting for his deputy Josh, and he says, and like Josh was surprised that he was waiting for him, and he tells this story of the man that falls in the hole, and so a guy falls in the hole and he can't get up, and there's no ladder and he can't jump out, and so a priest walks by, and the guy yells and says, Father, can you help me? I've fallen in this hole and I can't get out. So the father says a prayer and then keeps on going. Then he sees a doctor walk by, and he says, Doctor, I've fallen in this hole. It's too high for me to get out. I can't get out. Can you help me? Doctor writes a prescription, throws it in there, and keeps on going. And his friend walks by, and he goes, John, I've fallen in this hole, and it's too high for me to get out. Can you help me? And John jumps down there with him. And the guy goes, now what the hell are you doing? Now we're both down here. And John goes, yeah, but I've been down here before, and I know the way out. And so for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to put this out there, and it's not a cry for help. I'm not asking for anything, but I want people to know this, because life is not always sunshine and rainbows, and Instagram is the highlight reels of highlight reels, right? And it just felt like the right thing to do, and share that.
And there's always an insane sense of vulnerability and, oh my gosh, and that's why you check it 100 times, and what are people going to think, and all these different things. And when you're doing it for that reason, which is to help that one person, all that other stuff starts to sort of mute.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? If someone sees it as a cry for help, people are going to take things in a million different ways.
Sure.
But it's for that 1, 2, or 3 people who feel seen.
Absolutely.
And it actually makes a huge difference. It's very, very brave, especially of a perfectionist like you, and someone who is so, it's very, that's very brave of you to put that out there.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And it's important to do that. And I had a great session at therapy that Friday morning, and I just felt like, okay, like this feels like it feels right.
Yeah.
And feels important to say. And
I feel 2 really big lessons in your story. And there's a lot more, but the 2 that are jumping out off the page for me is, number 1, pay attention and care enough to see someone in your life like she did for you.
Yeah.
And it's oftentimes it's not this loud, overt thing. It's this look in their eye or lack thereof, or a light that's dimmed. Don't be too busy.
Yeah.
And pay attention, because it just takes one sentence.
Yeah.
That completely changed.
It changed the trajectory of my life. I would not be sitting here today. My parents would not have a child. I don't mean to be crass about it. I don't mean to be like that, but that's it. And it's just as important of a mentor who guided me to a career, right? Or guided me or helped me get a job, right? And I wouldn't be where I am today doing what I'm doing with RTRX and Rockbridge if A, B, and C didn't happen. It's a very simple statement, Carrie. Like, I would not be here. And that's it. And that's her having some level of like cosmic, wait a minute, I'm going to say something to him, right?
Yeah.
And
question, did you ever tell her that she saved you from that? Was that ever a conversation?
Over the years, I think that we would, at dinner, we would talk about, mental health and things like that. I would always say to her, like, Brenda, I wouldn't be here without you. I'll be honest with you. It hasn't really been till this past 12 months that I even felt comfortable saying out loud to people that I had thought about taking my own life. I was embarrassed by it. And so, and I was like, when I would tell the friends that did know, I would be like really quick about it, and I would quickly change the subject, right? And I was like, I don't want to go there. We're not digging there. And when someone shares that with you, and someone says, I don't want to go there, then you listen to that boundary. I don't think I ever explicitly like I tried to say it to her in a way where hopefully she understood what I was saying, but I never explicitly did because I was just super embarrassed and I wasn't comfortable enough to admit that, right? Like I wasn't comfortable to admit that I'm a perfectionist until a couple years ago, right? Like, and I just wasn't comfortable to admit gaps in myself or not deficiencies, but I just wasn't comfortable to admit when I am not always at my best, even to someone like Brenda, who I knew in the back of my mind in those conversations. So over the last 17 years, I probably had hundreds of dinners with her and hundreds of meals and bottles of wine consumed. And I never once felt like wasn't confident enough to say that until the past couple of years.
Did you tell your family?
No.
So they don't know still?
They do know.
They know now. Well, they know because of the post.
They know now.
Was the post the first?
The post was not the first time.
Okay.
Yes. No. My mother and father are both on Instagram.
Are they?
I think they follow like two people. Okay. It's like they follow me, and my dad actually texted me something last Friday night, and it's funny. He was like, I saw your article on Instagram. So first, not an article, and a post, Dad, and said like, I know you're off to an event, but call me tomorrow morning. I was like, it's a good post, not a bad post. It's a good post. And any father, he's like, well, for a father, it feels like a bad post. And I thought about that too. I thought like, okay, my mom and dad are going to see this. My family is going to see this. So everyone in my extended family saw it because it was on Instagram and Facebook. I thought about that as well. There's a saying in Hindi that most people will know that is, I'll butcher it and I'll translate it, but it says "Log kya kehna," which means what will people say. And so the Indian community, at times, there's a lot of comparison. And what will people say? What will people say? What will people say? And I thought about that the entire time that I was writing this post. I was like, what will people say about this? Like, will they look bad at, like, will they look down at my parents? Because it's not my parents' fault. It's nowhere near my parents' fault. I don't put blame anywhere. It's just what life was and how my brain works and where my brain and my heart was at that moment. And I thought about like, oh God, like my parents hang out with their group on Friday night, and some people will see it on Saturday morning. Then I thought, like, do I give my parents a heads up? And then I was like, you know what? No, Like I will call them. They're going to call me. I will reach out first, but I posted it. And then my dad probably saw it an hour later. And I was like, I'm not sure I care if people are going to be annoyed about it or be judgy about it, then let them.
There's a way bigger purpose to that. So being away from it like a week or so, how do you feel about the post?
Brené Brown talks about like vulnerability hangovers and how you feel once you open yourself up. And the reason I do therapy on Fridays typically is because if I'm in talk therapy or I also do EMDR, the sensing therapy, like those can be really heavy on the body afterwards. And so I don't want to like go into the work week having like therapy and, dealing with all that. So that's why I typically do it on Fridays to help just have the weekend to ease into it. So that therapy and then the post and then a handful of people reached out. A lot of coworkers came up to me on Monday and they were like, dude, like they were like, thank you for sharing that. I would have never, would have never assumed that. And then some people would share their own stories of struggle.
Well, that's the thing. That's what it does, right? It begets vulnerability. And then next thing you know, you're like, okay, this is why. This is why we do it.
Vulnerability begets vulnerability. Grace begets grace. Understanding begets understanding.
Love begets love.
Love begets love. And we're sitting in this world and there is so much shit going on. And I am as overthinking, anxious, perfectionist, hard charging as they come. And I have to remind myself that like, it's easy. It's so easy to play the victim. And it's so easy to think negatively about the other person. You don't text me back. How many times were we texting about this? And I would go a week and I'd be like, shit. And I would text you and I'd be like, I'm the worst person ever. Sorry, that works. Or can we do this date? And you would be like, haha, sounds good. Yeah. Now, you could have read into it. You could have been like, what a derp, like not texting me.
I just know you're busy.
Right. And then you could have, and you assume the best. You assume positive intent, right? And I'm sitting there on Thursday night after a week's worth of meetings and events and dinners, and I'm laying in bed scrolling through my phone of all the people I haven't responded to, and I'm like, shit. Okay. So then I'm like, Carrie, so sorry, I'm the worst. Yes, that still works for you, works for me. Like, super sorry. And there's never malintent. Like, there's just like, and so, but like, love does beget love, and understanding and grace does that. Yeah. And like, I don't know, it's easier.
Yeah.
It's easier to be negative. And it's easier to point the other finger, the other person. And it's easier to like seek confirmation bias for the negative parts of it. Or you can just be like, all right, I'm just going to give grace and understanding, and we're all human. We're not perfect. And like, it's going to be okay.
Let's go back to love, Suraj.
Yes, sure.
Turning the page here.
Sure.
Let's turn the page. Yeah. So you're single.
I am.
You're busy.
Yes.
You've seen The Bachelor Columbus that I'm launching, grassroots with my bootstraps.
Yes.
Now, I know when you're at my house on the first show, I was trying to recruit you to be either the president or the vice president of the United States.
Yes, that's true.
Which we still have that lingering out. But
sure.
You're young. You're young.
Yeah.
I think
not of constitutional age yet.
Right.
So.
But there's something to this Bachelor thing.
Sure.
Judging from the engagement and the fervor with which people are reaching out on one Anthony's journey, and you just met one Anthony walking in.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, with how busy you are,
and
how these apps are they're fine.
Yeah.
But if we have something like this available in the wonderful community of Columbus, would you be willing to entertain the idea of being the next busiest bachelor of Columbus?
I want to see how it works for Anthony, right? Because, listen, I give him credit. Like, being the guinea pig, being the first one to jump in there, like, credit where credit's due. So
7 dates. We've got seven really
dates.
high quality women.
Yeah.
I've approved them all.
That's
Kimmy
great.
has approved them all.
That's
so I mean,
great.
that's a pretty good.
I mean, if you and Kim, I mean,
Yes.
that's here's my commitment
Okay.
is like, let's see how it goes for Anthony. Let's see how the next couple of months go for life. And then we'll.
That's fine. And I will settle for that.
That's
However,
the politicians.
I understand,
yes.
but that's a very broad stroke. So let's define success for Anthony. So does Anthony have to meet his bride for you to think it's worthy, or does he have to just have a fun time? Like, what would be the requirements for one Suraj to potentially step up to the starting block?
You know, well, Anthony and I, we just met, and we only had like a 5-minute conversation about it.
But he seemed really happy, didn't he?
He seemed very happy about it. 7 dates in a matter of 2 weeks, like, stresses me out. I'm just like my calendar. I'm like, okay, how would I navigate that?
But Suraj, we can do a rhythm and a cadence with which you could you could sustain with your busy schedule.
You know, I think I'd want to talk to Anthony and see what his experience was like. I'm not sure that I want to set definition for Anthony as to what goes well for him.
No, I'm just saying for you.
Yeah,
like,
for me.
You know.
Yeah.
So you're a maybe to be the next Bachelor of Columbus.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
maybe.
we have a maybe.
We have a maybe.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance.
I think it's going to happen because I think he's going to meet his bride.
That's great.
Okay, Suraj, anything else? Oh, before we wrap up.
Yes.
You are now an official regular on the Carrie Croft Show.
Yes.
So I don't know if it needs to be quarterly or
whatever you want
whatever.
from me. Yeah.
I feel like you could come with some nugget of like, we'll have to figure out what that is.
We
but
can.
you are now hired to be
Thank you.
a
Accepted. Offer
best
signed.
friend of the Carrie Croft Show. There's some paperwork for you to
send
sign.
DocuSign and electronic signature, please.
You'll be signing your life away.
Yep.
Anything else you'd like to add for the good of the order
No,
before
listen,
we wrap up?
I think we've got a big summer in Columbus coming up, right? And a lot of fun and festivals, and the Arts Festival kicks off in a couple weeks, and that kicks off festival season. And so, not that I'm sitting here like trying to promote everything that's happening in Columbus every weekend, but we've got a really great city, and we're a great American Midwestern city. We just have to tell our story with a little bit more confidence and a little bit more, chutzpah. And
that translates to Columbus needs to get its cock out.
Sure. Okay. Hyphen Carrie Croft, not Suraj. No, but you know what? And also, it's like, thank you for doing this show. And I think last time I was on it, we did a gratitude exercise in the moment, or telling people leading it through it. I think it's important to know that you're putting your time and energy and resources out here to be doing this and telling these stories. The Awesome Company, right, would have never known about it, right, had you not posted about it. And then you with Freedom a la carte. And then I would have never known about Freedom a la carte had a coworker almost 9 years ago been like, hey, will you come to this luncheon with me in the basement of this church on Broad Street to check out this new social enterprise? And I was like, sure, okay. And so I think it's just a matter of we just got to do more. Like you said, love begets love. Let's love on our people. Let's love the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups and the downs.
Yep. And
let's just try to make this world and our city a little bit more of a loving, just, and kind place.
Yep.
And then, kick ass.
Amen, preacher man.
So, yep.
Man, I love you, Suraj.
Oh, I love you too.
And listen, if you're out there and you do think Suraj would make a good bachelor, just send me a DM. We can already grease the skids here.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a total yes. Trust me, this is not my first rodeo.
Yeah.
And with that, if you're still out there following your girl, follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, keep moving.